You're listening to the Mind Your Business podcast, episode number 82. Today, we're talking all about effortless launching. So, stay tuned. Hi, I'm James Wedmore, and I've built a 7-figure internet business that offers the financial freedom to do what I want, when I want. And I'm the first to say that hard work and hustle are not essential ingredients for your success. So, how do you build a thriving business from the inside out? This is the Mind Your Business podcast, featuring myself and co-host Phoebe Mroczek. All right, hello everyone, James Wedmore here.
And I'm Phoebe Mroczek.
And thank you so much for joining us here on the Mind Your Business podcast.
We have a very exciting episode today. One of my favorite topics.
No, it's not.
It is one of my favorite topics.
You're lying to me.
I do love to launch, I have to admit. But not just, actually, I don't like to launch. I like the effortless part of launching.
Well, this is very funny because at my live event and the VIP day we did before, and with some coaching clients, this has come up again and again.
Same with my clients.
Yep.
Anyone I've been talking to recently, they're like, I don't want this, this huge launch that's going to take over my life. And people who have had that are like, I had the worst experience. I never want that to happen again.
So this is what we're going to speak about today. And I want to start by first saying, I get it. Keep in mind that those big launches, which I love doing the big launches. I have so much fun doing those because it's a lot, but it takes something, and that's another episode. But those are what everybody sees. Mm-hmm. So if that's all you see, then that's all you have. And then you get to, that's how you do it. That's the only way to do it. And that's just not true.
Yeah, because everyone's selling all these programs, how to do this. And you're like,
They've got these professional videos and thousands of dollars in Facebook ads. And you got to have an affiliate manager with all these affiliates you're running around and webinars and challenges and all these things. And oh my goodness, and it's just me. So I get it. And we want to speak to the problem right now, right? That you have this product, program, something that you want to get out there to the world, and you look at, you've maybe taken part in someone else's launch, and just the thought of you doing it yourself is overwhelming. It's filling you with stress. You might feel stuck because you're like, I don't have the support system in place. I don't have the people, the team, the launch manager, the affiliate, all these different people or things to put in place, let alone the time, let alone the fact, and this is something that I remember dealing with a lot, that when this is all happening and it's live and it's going, it's like the difference between being a stage actor or actress versus like a film and TV actor or actress, right? Like, when you're in a big launch, it's like you're doing it live and you make a mistake and everyone sees it.
Yep.
And that's scary, and we get it. So although I'm always going to be your biggest fan and supporter for doing a big-ass launch, we also want to have a conversation with you about the effortless launch. Sounds good?
It sounds great. I know the people that I talk to are like, yeah, you've been part of these launches and blah, blah, blah. And what is it like? And I'm like, well, it depends who you're working with, right? Like, it depends what the overall attitude is. And I remember in episode 9, The Secrets of a Multiple Six-Figure Product Launch, we talked about how each of us in our roles came up with a word or a phrase or how we wanted the launch to feel. And my word was effortless. I was like, I don't want it to feel rushed or stressful. I don't want it to feel heavy, and I just want to get on with it, and I want to get to the end result. And I really do believe that you can get whatever result it is that you want, but it doesn't have to be overwhelming, stressful, and
So was it?
Which one?
The one where you set the intention?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think we talked about that in the episode.
It was stressful?
Oh, no, it was effortless.
Oh, it was effortless.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Because I checked in with myself every day and I'm like, does this feel effortless?
Yeah.
And I think really setting that intention is so important.
Well, and one of the pieces too is that when you get into a big launch, there's like this launch vacuum that it sucks you in. It takes a life of its own. It's this vortex and you get swirled and caught up in it. And all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, it's doing good. Let's make sure it's great. And let's make sure it's the best thing it's ever been, because it's almost like this one-hit wonder. And there you are out on stage and you want to give your best performance. And then you realize, oh my gosh, I got to give my best performance 12 hours a day for 2 weeks straight. And by the end, you're running on empty. So, those are fun. I love it. I mean, because you know what it takes. But the thing is you may not know this, but myself and Phoebe run what you would put in air quotes launches all the time that you may never even notice or see because they are these little quiet whisper of a promotions. I'm thinking of one specifically that you ran with Real Marketing Insider, our membership program in the summer of last year, emails only. And it was an easy breezy, like $40K promotion with a $49 a month membership.
Yeah, it was, I think, 10 emails. It was so easy, and it was so behind the scenes that nobody knew what was happening. And I think I kind of came to you, and you're like, so wait, what are we doing? I'm like, oh yeah, we're already in process. Like, it's all in motion, and it's really fun. Yeah. And that's it. If it's not fun and it's not, there is this adrenaline that you get when you're doing a big launch, and that's really, it can be really fun. It can also be miserable. You want to like blow your brains out. But I think in these, for that smaller promotion, it was smaller, but it was still like $40K. That's still pretty awesome.
Well, those have me more excited.
Totally.
That it's like, wow, that was effortless and lucrative. So it's not like you want an effortless launch that isn't lucrative, right? So yes, we can do the big launches, and I'm always going to encourage those, but they're not sustainable. You don't just keep doing those all year, every single month, every quarter. That's going to lead to some burnout and not very fun. So we need to find other ways to be putting our offers out there. So the first thing I like to do is define what a launch means. And I kind of change the definition that what people have as an expectation or definition of launch. My definition is a little different, or what we really call the essential ingredients that make up the equation of selling a product or offer on the internet. And the first piece is it's a free experience, right? Free value, free content, free information. This really sets the stage, sets the context, it creates the desire, it identifies the problem, it addresses what the possible solution is, all that type of stuff that happens. And then an offer is presented. That's the second ingredient. The objections are addressed because everyone will have objections. This sounds great, but, right? A lot of the yeah, buts, plus a deadline. And that's the most important piece. So really at the end of the day, it's as simple as putting an offer out there, the right offer in front of the right audience to solve that right problem. Here's the right solution. And then giving them the opportunity or the reason to take action now. A lot of people just say, I'm live, here it is. And people are like, oh, that's really cool. Like, I'll get around to that. And they don't have a reason why. So a big thing that I always love to stress and encourage my students, beyond encourage, require of my students, is that there is some sort of scarcity, urgency, or deadline to act now. Because now more than ever, we are so distracted and so busy and have so many things in front of us that we'll get to it later is usually the answer. Even when we love something, we all have Amazon wish lists with like 2,000 products on there. So
I have like 1 million tabs open in my browser at all times, and I'll just get overwhelmed to be like, nope, not buying any of it. And I see so many people that are like, well, I don't want this big launch. I just want it to, especially with membership sites. That's a huge thing. It's just like rolling admission. And you're like, yeah, but why are they going, why aren't they just going to buy it in 6 months? Why are they going to buy it right now? Why are they going to buy it tomorrow? And just I've seen so many times, making that tiny little adjustment means, a lot more happy customers.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I think when we begin to define the essential components of a launch, we get to set it up any way we want. And we've done small 2-day promotions or email-only promotions that follow these 4 ingredients, and we'll start to talk more to that as well. But I think what's going to help really detach this visceral reaction that we have when, oh gosh, I got to launch or something like that, is, something we have to talk about, which is launch numbers. I do it, but everyone else does it too, is there is the top line number, and then there's like the bottom line. And both those numbers are important. And so a launch number is, when someone tells you how much money they made in a launch, and a lot of times that is the projected revenue with completed on payment plans. That's total sales, not just total sales, but like projected sales, if, like on a payment plan, before refunds, before affiliate payouts, not including expenses, before
paying your team,
all that,
Facebook ads,
all that. So that is the top line number. Now, that is an important number because if you set that as your benchmark, like we do internally, that becomes the game that we're shooting for. Now, obviously, internally, there's also a lot of work to say, hey, how do we minimize costs? How do we become more efficient? How do we, get rid of any wasteful spending. And that's another game. But in the marketing world, it is about the transference of revenue, of sales, of customers. There is a correlation with that, right? That, wow, more customers said yes, more revenue to account for in that top line number. So I think both those games are really relevant. But I think we can begin to, first of all, have an understanding that most people are sharing the top line number, right? The launch numbers. And we tend to compare ourselves to others, don't we?
Absolutely.
And here's the thing, like, this is another thing that's so big. Like, so yes, we're comparing ourselves, like, oh, so-and-so made blah, blah, blah money. And you don't know the full story, and you don't know the full story, and you don't know the full story.
And it's not your story.
And
so
it's not your story. Like, there's so many components and factors that you don't even realize. Like, for example, like, there are some people that have a big blowout launch because they've spent a year building rapport, building the audience, building the free value, and then now they're doing their first launch ever, and their audience is like over-primed for it, and it does like extraordinarily well.
Yep.
Well, there's other people that are maybe have a few offers and they launch more consistently, so they don't have as big of a number. So you look at one launch and, oh, it's not as big as that, but you look at total revenue at the end of the year, you look at the P&Ls, like, that's the stuff that matters. Again, it's not about comparing, but it's so easy to fall into that trap.
What's apples and oranges?
Absolutely. What are you really comparing? And then there's, of course, some people will tell you, like, here's the numbers I did, but then you have to look at the commitment that's attached to those numbers, right? Like, it's one thing to do something with an inexpensive ebook or online course where there's really no personal work from you versus like, well, now I've got to go deliver all this time and content, and I don't have any time left to pitch another offer. So there's always a bigger story.
That's the opportunity cost, right?
Absolutely.
Of like, just because now you have to, you sell a program and then you spend the next 8 weeks delivering that program, being active in the Facebook group, engaging the members, and, keeping your team accountable, all of those things, you're saying yes to that, which is awesome, but you're also saying no to developing other products. And, I know a lot of people don't really account for how much time some of this takes, because it doesn't really take a lot of time to manage and build and grow rapport with a community.
And so I think the reason we bring this up is to give you guys permission to have an effortless launch. To give you the permission to have a launch that doesn't have numbers that go up on the fridge, right? Like, that's something to write home to mom about. Like, it doesn't have to. And, I am so much more excited today about a $40,000 promotion that was like a handful of emails and a high five than, $500,000, and it was like a month or 2 months or 3 months of like, we got this, right? And white knuckling it and getting through it, or even any variation of that. So, I mean, and that's my opinion. Some people say, well, money's money, so I'll do whatever it takes. Well, I'm in this for the long haul, and I know that that's just not sustainable. So we want to give you permission to let go, detach from the goals of comparing yourself to others, and really just say, man, I would be really happy if I could do a launch, I could do a promotion, only working X amount of hours a day and hit this number, because it's what you want, not what you have to show off and post in some vain, egotistical Facebook group about, look at it, look at me, know? Now, don't get me wrong. I love with my customers when they share their wins. That's huge, but we're not doing it to
be better than
anyone, right? It's just to acknowledge what we've accomplished and celebrate our wins.
When I think we get so, pulled away from that. I remember there was a launch that I had, and I was like, I want to do this amount, and I didn't get there, and I was so bummed out about it. And I was like, wait a second, I didn't even want that number in the first place. That's so weird. Why all of a sudden I was in a Facebook group and I was just getting overwhelmed with everyone else's, and I lost sight of my own goals. And I was like, well, actually, at one point I was like, well, maybe I add this, and maybe I do this, and this will make it more valuable. And I'm like, no, that's not what I want. So going back and, not comparing yourself to others and being okay with where you are, and knowing that you're exactly, the results are not a reflection of anything else other than, what those numbers mean at that moment.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think the two things we really want to touch on, the first one we already have, which is understanding the principles of the essential ingredients that go into a launch. What really makes a launch? A lot of people just think a launch means you got to have 100 affiliates and these professional made videos. That's not true. You do not have to do it that way. But you do have to have an offer. You do need to have a deadline. You need to have an audience to put that offer in front of, even if it's an email list of 50 people, even if it's 10 people, right? Understanding that is the first part. And then the second thing is the lens in which we look at those ingredients. And that's this MVP, the minimum viable project or promotion. And I'm such a fan of this because it's too easy today. It's too easy to add to your launch. It's too easy to say, oh, we're going to throw a contest in and a scholarship. We're going to do videos. We're going to do retargeting. And we're going to do webinars. We're going to do live stream. Can I go on, right? I'm going to do a Facebook group. I'm going to do 50 emails here. Of course it's overwhelming. Listen to that. That is totally overwhelming. And listen, we do that because we can, but you don't have to start there. And I think what we're trying to say is to give you permission that you can do less, right? And so we want to look at, well, what is the minimum viable promotion? What is the minimum amount of elements or ingredients or components that's going to still allow for the transaction to be made, the sale to be made? And I think the number one thing that we have to talk about, and we can talk further on another episode, so we'll just touch briefly on it here, is the offer. At the end of the day, yes, 99.9% of it is the offer. And the offer is, what you got and what it'll do for them. It's the transformation. It's the result that you're promising. It's the solution to the problem they have. It's the removal of the pain they're experiencing. It's their way out. It's the way from the before photo to the after photo. And we just get this so wrong.
Just about to say, so many people get this wrong because they think what they consider a problem is a problem for everybody. And you're like, listen to your people, ask them what they want, listen to what they say, and then provide the solution. And so many, they come up with these, these products, and you're like, well, what's the promise of this? And they can't actually tell you.
Well, and that's where people struggle as a marketer, is that, we will assume that you have a great product, that it's really a great, it's a work of art. But at times we struggle to communicate that. And that's what we really mean about the offer, is that we're having a hard time communicating the offer, and they just don't get it. If they got it, what you're trying to communicate, it'd be like, oh, yeah, here's my money, right? Just go take it. And so we can always do a better job. And so instead of putting your time and energy on, I'm going to run an Instagram contest during this, and, I'm going to do like 10 Facebook Lives a day, why not just get this thing down?
Right.
Because if you had a great offer that people actually want, like this is what I actually want, and you just put that in front of the right audience, you can actually get rid of a lot of the fluff, the stuff that's getting in the way of that. So I like to say that there's 3 P's to an offer: the promise, the price, and the process. The promise is the transformation. It is the result that you are promising. It's the way out of the problem that they are experiencing. So, I really like to look at the, within the promise, there is the problem that you're solving, and there's the physical, like tangible, external problem, and then there's the internal emotion around the problem. Like, you can't attract the perfect mate. Okay, so that's the physical, external problem. Like, there's no partner there. There's no guy or girl. There's no husband. There's no spouse. And then the internal one is feeling alone, or feeling unloved, or feeling like you'll always be alone, or you're not enough, or there's something wrong with you. And we're offering a solution to both the internal and the external. We're all emotional creatures. And if we're not tapping into that, then your audience will have a hard time getting it.
Definitely. Right. And I think the best way to do that is to put yourself in their shoes and be like, right, am I waking up at night thinking, oh my gosh, I wish I had a spouse? Okay, yeah, maybe. Yeah. All right, then what's like the actual emotions around that? Like, how are they feeling? If you were them, and actually writing it out is really good for me. I like to write things out and journal as though I was that person. That will really shine a light on the emotions behind it, because people can tell you what their problems are, but you want to know why. And digging into that with like copywriting videos, whatever it is, just makes everything so much easier once you understand where they are in the process.
Yeah. I mean, and this is why like, just talking to a customer and just getting to those really good questions, by the end of it, you can just be like, oh, I can help with that.
Yeah.
Those are what I always say. Those are my 3 magic words is I can help. And, the next comes asking for the money. But along the lines of the promise, which is what is the problem I'm solving and what is the solution I'm providing, there's the price and the process. So most of it is in the promise. Like, what is it that we're addressing here? What is it that we're solving? That, being single, right? Or being alone, being not worthy of love. That's, what we're going to provide a solution for. And then, of course, the process would be, how are you fulfilling on that? If it's an online course, we're talking about the modules and the bonuses and the video training and the resources. If it's a live event, it's a 2-day event that has exercises in this room with this amount of people and all these types of things. It's located here in, Laguna Beach. And the price is how much, right? And we can have a much deeper conversation on that. But I think a great example of this is a great offer is last year when we pitched the mastermind. It literally started with an email saying, I'm starting a mastermind. Yep. You in. Mm-hmm. And then I basically said, hey, I'm doing a mastermind. It's $25,000. It is application only, but here's a link to apply. Mm-hmm. And we filled that sucker out in like 2 or 3 days. It's $25,000 offer. Yeah. So there's no launch there. I mean, that was a launch because it was a deadline to get the application in. There was an offer made. Objections were addressed. So by James's definition, there was a launch. But by most people's definition, there was no launch. Right. And so this is a great example of an effortless launch. It was just done through a series of emails. Now, we did do a webinar as an informational webinar. We didn't have to create all this content. Like, we literally got on the webinar and said, hey, so if you want to learn more about what a mastermind is and kind of have me explain it to you, hop on this webinar and I'll tell you all about it. And that was me just addressing the objections, going back over the offer, the promise, the price, and the process. What's included? What's it look like? And I go back and I remember the promise was to create your breakthrough year in business, to scale and to automate and to reach more people. And yeah, like as simple as that.
And I think we took all of the things from the information page. Like, we just recycled a lot of the information for the webinar. So it wasn't any more work that we were doing. We just pulled it from the emails and pulled it from, the webinar and whatnot. So it just made it super easy.
So that was it. And then there was a deadline. Yep. So I think it was a total of like 3 emails and a short informational webinar and a link to an application. And then, there's a whole follow-up process from that. But everyone who applied that we accepted, got in and paid, right? So it was a very easy, effortless example. And that's definitely one we wanted to share with you. So that's the funny thing. Like, I think we sometimes think that the higher price means more work from us. Definitely. It has to be a bigger launch and all that. And it's just not true. So minimum viable promotion. What's the least amount of work? What's the least amount of elements needed to still maximize results?
I think that's something really interesting to point out, because I think a lot of people are like, what's the maximum amount that I can charge for the minimal amount of effort? And it's like that, yes and no, because it's really, what's the most you can charge to get them to where they need to be and to actually shorten that process. So that's why the mastermind, we could charge that, because we knew that we could get people from where they were to a breakthrough year.
Well, it's not because of that just alone. It's because that's what they actually want.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my goodness, the amount of people that come to me in a year and are craving that because they want higher level support, higher level networking, the accountability, the how come I feel like I'm the only one that isn't getting it in the room person and I want to be in the in crowd. That's what they actually want. Yeah. And I listened to that. And if you listen to what your people actually want, putting an offer together becomes really easy, and you don't need to have a big fat launch around it. Mm-hmm. So minimum viable promotion isn't about how can I be as lazy as possible and make a ton of money?
Exactly.
If that's how you're interpreting it, then you just haven't been listening, because what immediately comes to mind is an analogy that was in one of Tim Ferriss's book. It was in The 4-Hour Body, where he talks about getting sunburnt. If your goal was to get tan, well, there isn't a direct correlation with how long you stay in the sun and how good of a tan you get, right? Like the longer you stay outside, there's a tipping point where all of a sudden your brown turns into bright red and then it turns into like peeling and then you've got skin problems. So this is what we're talking about is like sometimes the work we're doing is actually costing us more. There's an opportunity cost. There's work that's getting in the way from the actual sale. And this is really, really important to keep in mind, to consider. What are the absolute essential ingredients that are really contributing to making the ideal customer, the person that is a hell yes for this, and a person that it's going to make a difference for, say yes as easily and effortlessly as possible. It's always going to come down to a great offer. And it's great because that's what they actually want, but it's also great because you've communicated it effectively. They got it. Mm-hmm. And that is a mastery in its own. That takes work, that takes practice, that takes so many things, but it also takes, most importantly, knowing your audience. Mm-hmm. So there's a couple other things. Obviously, like these are like real simple things, but you got to have a way for people to pay you. You know, really simple. But we did a promotion in the summer right before my wedding. And I don't know if we ever did an episode on this, but I've talked about this in some of my courses, how we did a 2-week project and launched an automated funnel in 2 weeks, start to finish, right before my wedding. And then on my wedding day, we're like bringing in sales. It was awesome. Like checking your phone, you know, like while you're sitting there. By the way, why do they get you in the room like 6 hours before the wedding's ready? Like all the wedding planners stuff, so you gotta be 12 o'clock, you gotta be here. And
because the bride has to, because she has to have all fun with her girlfriends. And
so I'm sitting there in this room and
watching your PayPal.
Well, I'm all dressed, you know, it's like guys get dressed in 20 minutes and we're like, okay, I'm good. And they took 1 million photos of you and then you're just sitting there. So yeah, you're checking your stats. You're like, oh, that's cool. And another sale. And we had to get it done in 2 weeks. Like I made the rules like, guys, we're getting married. And then I'm like, gone for a week for our mini moon, and then next week we're going to be at my mastermind. We got to do this. So we got 2 weeks. So we had to start saying no to some things. We had to prioritize, and that's such a beautiful skill to develop, to always be able to look at what is the most important thing. And one of the things we cut was the sales page. And that would like freak people out. It's like, how do you do a launch or promotion without a sales page? And sure enough, it was just fine. And it's still one of our highest converting funnels that we've ever done. And there's no sales page.
So when you say there's no sales page, there is a page for people to purchase on. It's just not one of these like beautiful fancy ones that...
No, I'm saying it's just a checkout page. There's no page.
Oh, like no information page.
There's no information page.
Got it.
There's no page talking about the modules and the bonuses and a cool headline and all that type of stuff. It's a webinar. And at the end of the webinar, I mean, it talks about the product. It pitches the product on the webinar and says, if this is what you want, here's a link to the checkout page. I don't need to send people back to a sales page.
Right.
And so a lot of times we're doing stuff because we see everyone else doing it and think, well, I got to do that too. And I got to do this as well. And we're taking pieces of everyone else's launches and adding it to ours to create this mega launch.
Yeah.
And it's like 100 million different pieces. And we just started asking that question, do we really need this? Let's see what happens. And so it was really simple. It was just a 45-minute webinar to a checkout page.
Well, I think it's so funny because that will hold so many people back, that they don't have this well-designed, you know, they have to pay tons of money to get someone to do it. And if you just use one of these, you know, bare bones kind of checkout pages, it's so easy. And also like just knowing that that is what, you know, in the process, if it hadn't worked out, well, so what? 2 weeks later, you know, when you got back from your mini moon, you would have refined the process. Then you could have developed a really nice sales page, or then you could have, you know, kind of, I don't know, added some graphics to the checkout page and made it look a little, you know, or had better aesthetics. But you didn't have to do that. And so that's what I love about that process is people forget about that.
Absolutely. Now, something else, I just kind of boiled down into this umbrella topic of context. You know, you can't just put a link in an email saying, here, click on this, and it's a link to your checkout page with your offer. Mm-hmm. So there needs to be some context, right? And, you know, even with the mastermind, like this was something that didn't need very much. The subject line was, I'm starting a mastermind. The context, what set the stage, the frame, identified the problem, addressed the possible solution, was I told a story about how I've been in a mastermind for 8 out of the 9 years I've been in business, or I think it was the time of 7 out of the 8 years I'd been in business. And the 1 year I wasn't, this is a true story, the 1 year I wasn't, I felt the difference. I saw the difference. My business saw the difference. And I've made it a commitment to mine that I will always be a part of at least one mastermind, because oh my gosh, you just don't know what you're missing out. Like, I can't tell you enough, like, how much we all need that support and constant, like, pool of just abundance of knowledge and love and support. I'm like, oh my gosh, why would you do it without it ever? I don't get it. So I spoke to that, and that kind of set the stage of like, and that's why I'm doing this. That, by the way, like, what we're doing with the context is we're doing problem, solution, and reason why we're selling this. Like, and that's why I decided to create my own kind of thing, right? And I think I told the story of how I joined a new one, and I was really inspired to create my own and stuff like that. So, you know, starting with the problem, going towards the solution, and kind of transitioning or pivoting to, and that's why I've created this, is like the most simplest way to create context. But there's always a classic offer framework that I've always loved, and we always try and use indirectly. And that's the whole, here's what I've got, here's what it'll do for you, and here's how to get it model. It's such a simple framework to follow. Like, so I always start and I lead with a problem. And it's either me telling a story about a problem I've had, or like asking some probing questions about a problem they might be having. So I start with a problem, and then I say, you know, like, hey, if you're struggling with this, like, I totally get it. That used to be me. Then I did this, and that's why I've created this program. So here's what I've got. It's this cool, awesome product. Here's what it'll do for you. And this is where you're really pulling out the benefits. And then here's how to get it. And it could be as simple as clicking the link to that checkout page, right? Or to that application. And I know people have done this in one email. I mean, that's pretty much what we did with the mastermind. The follow-up emails, the 2 additional emails were like reminders, like, hey, just heads up, we're closing down the applications tonight at midnight. Now, there's one other element to this, which I think is really important, which is to add what I call irresistible urgency. So if you made a great offer and set it all up so people could pay you, and you set the stage, what I think you could do in an effortless launch to really blow this out of the water is make a special wow, like a special, it's like a sale, except we're not fans here at Mind Your Business of discounting your stuff, right? You're not going to discount your products. You're not going to cheapen your brand. You're not going to be the Walmart of your industry. So instead you add to it. Right? So irresistible urgency. What is something you could add on top to stack this offer to just make it unbelievable? So if the offer was already something they actually want, and now for a limited time they're going to get this as well, that alone is just so powerful, right? And that aligns with our effortless launching strategy here. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And I think also one thing I have so many people that are like, well, but I don't have any other products. I haven't done this before. This is my first launch for this product or promotion. And one really great way to kind of address that is look at all of your objections and see, for a lot of my emails, I used to do hit reply and start a conversation. You know, that might not be the best way to do it, but if you're in a Facebook group or you've started a Facebook group for this specific promotion, then look at what people are saying as far as their objections, or being in that place of, you know, writing in your journal and saying, if I were my customer, what would my biggest objections be? And then look at those and be like, okay, well, how can you turn those objections into a really cool bonus? So, you know, like a template or anything that they would have a hard time, and you can just come in and make it really easy for them.
And one of my favorite examples of doing this is when we teach video. There's always a ton of objections with video, one of which is, I don't have the time. And I just say, hey, I know what you're thinking. You don't have the time. I don't blame you. I don't have the time either, which is why I outsource my videos overseas, and I get all the video editing done, including this video you're watching right now, for just $3 an hour. In fact, I've included my mini course, the video outsourcing mini course, a $97 course I sell separately, absolutely free until tomorrow at midnight. They're like, oh, well, that was the only thing getting in my way. Yep. So fantastic, right?
And I don't know what to say. And we were like, well, we have templates.
We have scripts, ready-made templates for it. I don't want to be in front of the camera. Oh, great. We're going to show you how to make videos where you don't have to be. I mean, come on. When you know your market, you know how to address all those objections. And that's just such an important piece. None of this has to do with going crazy, pull your hair out type launches. Now, there's one other essential element, and that is a deadline. That is making sure you tell people to take action when the doors close, enrollment closes on, or, you know, there are only 30 spots remaining. And this is so important because people will say yes to your offer They just won't say yes right now. So you need to give them that reason why they need to drop everything and take action. And this is why we see 30 to 40+% of our sales come in on the last day, because people are busy and they wait till the last minute. Hey, we're all guilty of this. It's okay. But it's very important because you want to create an environment where you force, lovingly, of course, your customers to make a decision. It is healthy to make decisions. The decision can be a no. The decision could be not right now, but to look at it and say like, and then just walk away is not a very good, healthy lifestyle. Like, that's a good habit to make decisions and then move forward and act from those decisions. So if you're giving someone the opportunity with a deadline, you're giving them the opportunity then to actually make a decision
and making them feel empowered in that decision. I was interviewing people or having my interviews for my mastermind, and I said to them, I was like, great, if it's not a hell yes, then it's a no, and that's totally fine, but I just need you to make a decision, and that needs to be by Friday. And so make a decision and let me know. Either way, we're still going to be friends and blah, blah. And I did this whole thing, and they're like, oh, wait, what? Yeah, no. Now I want to do it. I'm like, okay, but sit on it and just wait and tell me by Friday. But it wasn't until I started to, there's a deadline? And then they started to kind of doubt themselves and be like, well, now I can't just sit on this. I need to actually take action. Yes. And that's a really, really important part of this whole thing.
And it's okay if it's a no.
Exactly.
So we wanted to keep this episode effortless, as that's the topic. So I hope this helps. I hope this shows you or gives you permission to create an effortless launch in your business, to realize that it doesn't have to be some huge hoopla, life-changing, earth-shattering event that shocks the world, that you can just go out to your existing email list, your existing tribe, and give them some free content, talk to the problem, understand what they're going through, and say, hey, I've got something that can help with this. If you're struggling with this, I can help. Here's what I've got. Here's what it'll do. Here's how to get it. FYI, if you get it before Friday at midnight, you're also going to get that. Enrollment closes then. Peace, right? Drop the mic. You can high-five us and go about, thinking about your next effortless launch or automating this effortless launch and making it even more effortless, which we're a huge fan of, and that'll probably be a future episode. I hope this helped. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'm James Wedmore.
I'm Phoebe Mroczek.
And we'll see you on the next episode. Are you frustrated that no matter how hard you hustle, no matter how much you get done in a day, you still feel like you have little results to show for it? Do you feel like you're doing everything right, but there's still something missing? Well, what if there was an easier way? What if your business could be fun, effortless, and profitable? Phoebe and I have put together a free audio MP3 for you, compiling the 77 business affirmations for creating success from the inside out. And we want to give it to you absolutely free. This is your chance to rewire your brain for bigger results in your life and your business. To get instant access absolutely free, simply visit 77affirmations.com. That's the number 77affirmations.com.